Hey everyone, this is Gabriela, another episode of What's Grinding Gabriela's Gears. Today, I really wanted to share some information about gap assessments and why they're so important. As a FedRAMP 3 PAO and a service provider for all kinds of services across governance, risk, and compliance on both federal and commercial, the one service I always try to push people to is going through a gap assessment. When you're preparing for your FedRAMP authorization, your SOC 2 accreditation, or any other kind of baseline audit activity or accreditation authorization service, it's really important to go through the gap assessment so that you can understand your overall maturity of your program. Is it working as intended? Do you have your policies and procedures, right? Are your controls in place, or are you coming in blind and not really knowing what the minimum requirements are? You would be surprised how many brand new vendors who have been told, I need to go get a FedRAMP authorization, and they believe they're super strong in compliance, but are missing some of the very foundational federal mandated requirements. Not having a SIM configured correctly, not pulling in your audit logs, not focusing on encryption, having poor configuration management and change management procedures. Those are all items that really will trip you up during your audit. And if you have no understanding or you're not necessarily familiar with either the federal government or one of the other specific baseline standards that you're trying to obtain, it's really helpful to go to a SME and have them evaluate your program so you don't go down the rabbit hole and spend tons of money for an assessment that you might not be prepared for. So what does MindPoint Group do when it comes to a gap assessment? We follow our traditional kind of methodology, right? We always want to do an interview, evaluate, and examine. We are going to spend time with our stakeholders to learn the environment and see how, from a verbal understanding, that organization really knows how they've implemented those security controls. Then we follow up and request supporting artifacts and deliverables, such as your policies and procedures, or other artifacts that show that you have security controls implemented to validate that the controls are working as intended and as you have documented and as you have stated. That gives us an opportunity to identify where those risks are and opportunities for improvement before you enter into a long-term or costly engagement, such as a FedRAMP authorization. Having that gap assessment is a good gut check, right? You go to the doctor and you get a physical just to make sure you're really doing okay. Maybe you need to work on your cholesterol. Maybe you're doing an amazing job and you're getting that gold star, but it really feels good to know that before you make a large investment. And that's why gap assessments are super important and super helpful for any organization as they're preparing for that next baseline audit or large activity. I'd love to share more information and hear your questions and thoughts. Please stick around, hit subscribe, hit like, and send us your questions. Can't wait to talk to you guys on the next episode of What's Grinding Gabriela's Gears. Thanks so much.